Everything you've ever called real, the colors, the sounds, the shapes of the world, might be nothing more than a sliver of a vast, hidden truth. Not because it's being kept from you, but because your mind has been conditioned to look away. Jacobo Grinberg argued that reality is infinite, yet our perception is heartbreakingly narrow, locked within the walls of our own conditioning. But here's the good news. By the end of this video, you'll discover the tools to shatter those walls and see the world as it truly is. So, where do we begin? Close your eyes for a moment and think about the world you experience. The sunlight filtering through the window, the sound of birds chirping, the weight of your body against the chair. It all feels so real, doesn't it? But have you ever considered how much of this reality is filtered, like water flowing through a sieve? What gets through are only the parts your mind deems necessary for survival. Grinberg likened perception to a gatekeeper. Our senses, extraordinary as they are, let in only a fraction of the infinite data surrounding us. This limitation isn't just biological, it's cultural, psychological, and deeply personal. Your mind shapes reality not as it is, but as you are. Your beliefs, upbringing, and experiences act like tinted glasses, coloring everything you see. Let's take an example. A newborn sees the world in ways we can't even comprehend. Their perception is raw, unfiltered, unbound by language or expectation. To them, a light isn't just a light. It's a radiant mystery, a miracle. Somewhere along the way, we lose that openness, trading awe for efficiency. The world becomes labeled, categorized, and tamed until it seems mundane. Take the invisible gorilla experiment. Participants asked to count basketball passes failed to notice a person in a gorilla suit walking through the scene. The point? Our focus blinds us to what's right in front of us. So, if our perception is so selective, how much are we missing every day? What if there's an entire dimension of reality waiting to be seen, hidden not by design, but by the limits we impose on ourselves? Imagine your mind as a sculptor, chipping away at the block of raw reality to create something recognizable, something familiar. But here's the paradox. In crafting the world you see, your mind is also building walls, confining you to its limited vision. Grinberg's work suggests that our beliefs are both our guide and our jailer. If you believe the world is hostile, you'll notice every slight, every threat. If you believe success is impossible, your opportunities will seem invisible. These beliefs, often unconscious, shape your world like an architect building a maze you cannot escape. It's a bit like Plato's allegory of the cave. Prisoners see only shadows on the wall, mistaking them for reality. Why? Because they've never turned to see the fire casting the shadows, or stepped outside to witness the world beyond. Similarly, we mistake the familiar shapes of our perception for the full expanse of reality, unaware that we're trapped by our mental conditioning. This limitation isn't just philosophical, it's profoundly practical. How often do we miss the beauty of a moment because we're stuck in our heads, replaying old fears or chasing future worries? How often do we fail to see solutions because we're blinded by assumptions? These walls limit not only our perception but also our creativity, our relationships, and our ability to embrace synchronicities, the subtle nudges of the universe that guide us toward growth. But what if these walls aren't permanent? What if the mind, instead of a prison, could become a gateway? Let's think of perception as a radio dial. Most of us are tuned to one station, the familiar hum of everyday life. But what if there are countless other frequencies, each one a layer of reality we rarely perceive? Grinberg believed this. What we call ordinary perception is just one station on a vast cosmic dial. Consider how other species experience the world. Bees see ultraviolet light, perceiving patterns on flowers invisible to us. bats navigate through echolocation, seeing sound. To a snake, heat patterns reveal a world we can only imagine. Each of these creatures is tuned to a different station, experiencing a slice of reality that's utterly foreign to ours. Grinberg suggested that humans, too, could expand their perception. Ancient traditions point to this. Chakras in Eastern philosophy are described as energy centers, each attuned to a different frequency of existence. Mystics speak of transcending the gross material world to access higher planes of awareness. Even science nods toward this. Quantum physics reveals that particles exist in a state of potential until observed. Could it be that our awareness itself is a kind of tuning fork, collapsing one frequency into focus while leaving others in the dark? What does this mean for us? It means that what we see as reality is just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a vast ocean of possibilities, worlds we've yet to discover because we haven't learned how to listen, how to see. If reality is infinite and our perception is narrow, then the question becomes, how do we expand it? How do we break the illusion? Grinberg believed the key lies in silence, not the absence of sound, but the stilling of the mind. Imagine your thoughts as ripples on a pond, distorting the surface and obscuring the depths below. When the ripples settle, the water becomes a mirror, reflecting the world with clarity. Meditation, mindfulness, and altered states of consciousness are the tools that allow the ripples to calm. These states aren't just about relaxation. They're about tuning into the subtler frequencies of reality that are always present, but drowned out by the noise of daily thought. Grinberg taught that achieving a silent mind opens a doorway to heightened perception. But what does this really mean? It's not simply sitting still. It's about dismantling the mental filters that dictate how you see the world. For example, your brain processes an overwhelming amount of sensory data every second: light, sound, touch, smell, but most of it is discarded, deemed unnecessary. The result? You experience a curated version of reality, one chosen not by your consciousness, but by your conditioning. Expanding perception begins with reclaiming this choice. Let's start with something simple yet profound. A mindful immersion exercise. Hold a stone in your hand. Feel its weight. Notice its temperature, the smoothness of its surface, the ridges where it has been weathered by time. Resist the urge to name it or analyze it. Just experience it as it is. This practice, though deceptively small, is revolutionary. It forces you to bypass your mind's instinct to categorize and instead engage with the raw essence of reality. Another technique is what Grinberg called gazing without labels. Pick an object, perhaps a flower, and look at it as though you've never seen it before. Forget it's called a flower. Forget what you know about its petals or its colors. Simply allow your awareness to merge with the object. Over time, you'll notice the boundaries between you and it begin to blur. This isn't magic. It's the act of unlearning, of stepping out of the habit of intellectualizing and stepping into direct experience. But perception isn't just a sensory phenomenon. It's also deeply tied to belief. Deconditioning your mind means questioning the invisible assumptions you live by. Ask yourself, why do I believe this is true? Why do I see the world in this particular way? What if the opposite were true? For instance, if you assume life is full of struggle, what might happen if you began to view life as inherently supportive? These questions are not rhetorical. They are tools for peeling back the layers of your mental framework. As you engage in these practices, something remarkable begins to happen. Synchronicities emerge. These aren't coincidences. They're moments when the universe seems to align in response to your expanding awareness. It's as though the world, previously seen as static and external, reveals itself to be alive and responsive, like a dance partner waiting for you to take the lead. For instance, have you ever thought of someone just before they called you, or noticed a meaningful pattern in seemingly unrelated events? These aren't just quirks of chance. They are glimpses of a reality that is far more interconnected than we've been led to believe. Grinberg would argue that as you dissolve the filters of conditioned perception, you open yourself to the full spectrum of reality, where such moments become not rare, but natural. So, what if this full spectrum of reality is already around you, waiting for you to notice it? Perhaps the first step is not to change the world, but to change how you see it. Hold a stone. Gaze at a flower. Question your beliefs. These are small steps, but each one peels back a layer of conditioning, revealing the infinite possibilities that lie just beyond the edges of your awareness. Grinberg believed that the world you see is just one version of an infinite reality. By breaking the limits of perception, you don't just expand your vision, you expand yourself. And in that expansion, you find not just the world as it is, but the world as it could be. So, what will you choose to see today?